Like, are you kidding me right now? I walk up to my computer, look at the time, and oh my gosh, it's 5 seconds until showtime. Start it now, Doug. Start it now. Oh, I don't have SpeakerBot running. All right, I am operating in diminished capacity this morning with a headache. So I'm sitting down. I'm moving slower. I'm going to deal with this Excel issue first. I do believe the problem is solved, or at least part of the problem. And we'll get to that in a little bit. I'm still getting things set up here. I don't even know if I'm coming through. I'm going to go check a audio check. Let's see. I'm going to go check a... there I am. I know that guy. I recognize him. Oh, let's see. In SpeakerBot. Oh, I got to fix something there, don't I? Oh, nope, I don't. Yep, I do have those triggers. I got to delete all this stuff before this thing does a whole bunch of nuisance talking to us. I configured the SpeakerBot to put some messages into chat about how I want it to be used, and a message about how to get approval for being in the chat room. You have to make a comment on any of my videos asking for approval for the chat room. Yeah, we hear you. I see that. Rick Lakes and John says, sounds good. Take time off your feet. Delete this trigger. Yeah. Okay, so SpeakerBot should be up and running now. Let's go. What do I want to go deal with this? Yeah, let's come in here to Greg M left a comment after the show on this video. As I mentioned during the live stream, Excel stores the numbers behind the scene with greater precision. Now, I take issue with the greater precision. I think it's actually less precision. Hold on, let me explain. maybe you buy that. This article explains that Excel uses IEEE 754 standard. Now that's the culprit. And it has to do with floating point numbers. In order to store numbers in computers, they could have used, let's see, I think he even mentions the other method in there. Yeah, binary coded decimals, which would be where we code the left side of the decimal point and we code the right side of the decimal point in binary. But we want to have a floating decimal point, so the decimal point could move. So if you have the decimal point like as far over to the right as possible, then you've got a really large number. If we had the decimal point all the way over to the left as far as possible, then you can deal with really tiny numbers. So it was determined some time ago that we want computers to be able to use floating point numbers. Otherwise, we'd massively have to use larger databases, larger number of...
Is the HP laptop all set up?
Is the HP laptop all set up? No, I'm still have more work to do on it for the client. So this IEEE decided how we're going to accomplish floating point, storing floating point numbers in binary form where you can only do ones and zeros. So that's what the cause of this problem, where we're dealing with dollars and cents and there's no division involved. But yes, there is division involved of sorts. There's multiplication by decimal numbers, which is the same as division. So I'm going to get into this a little bit, and basically I'm probably just going to go through this piece about this spreadsheet, and maybe in the show early. You can tell I'm not in good shape. Method 2, precision as displayed. Now that's what the easy fix is gonna be. And Greg M was proposing this yesterday as an easy solution, and it is the easy solution. So let's go ahead and show that, I suppose. Yeah, let's do with here. Excel has an easy way to change this. Now, Martin Hogg sent in a lot of several emails yesterday, and he was working on the issue, and that did not actually. He came up with proposing a different way to deal with it, but I wanted to know what is causing this thing where there's these crazy long numbers to the right of the decimal point, and it is answered in the way that IEEE decides to handle this. But to get a quick, easy solution so that we don't have this problem that Excel is showing me, we go to the options and then advanced options. Now again, I was rejecting this as a solution yesterday because those numbers shouldn't be there in my mind yesterday. Now I understand it and I accept it. So we get down here to when calculating this workbook, and this is a setting specifically for this workbook. We're going to set precision as displayed, and data will permanently lose accuracy. Well, not really, because you can come back and change and remove this check mark, and you can get back. Now, his accuracy, I struggle with that because the way that IEEE decided that decimal values would be stored in binary is actually less accurate. Yeah, it's got more decimal places. And if you want to call that precision, okay, have at it. But now we got display as, or store as displayed, whatever that said. Now if I do F2 and then F9, I don't get all those decimal places. Now the symptom behind this, what causes this, is it's the same thing as when you're converting fractions to decimals. Now I think most of you probably have enough experience with math to know what happens when you divide 1 by 3. 1 divided by 3, or even 10 divided by 3. If you got 10 cookies and you take 3 away, you have 7 left, right? Well, that's just subtracting 3. But what if you divided in thirds? You take 10 cookies. How do you divide those into thirds? Well, if you write it on the sheet of paper, you'll write 3 and then 1 over 3, a fraction, right? 3 and 1/3. But how do you do that in a decimal form? It's 3.33333, and that's a repeating decimal place. It goes on forever. You can't display it, you can't show that in decimals. Well, a similar thing is true when you're storing floating point numbers in binary. You get a similar thing where there's that repeating thing. So there is a form of division involved. Now, when I went looking at this article that Greg M took us to, calculating floating point numbers, I was getting into this and I was saying, okay, fine, but there's no division in here. It's dollars and cents. There's only 2 decimal places. There's no division involved. But yes, there is a form of division involved when you get into how they determine that would be stored in binary for floating point numbers. If we use that BCD, see, Greg said it here better, binary coded decimals, which some of us are going to think boot configuration data, right? Binary coded decimals. But it has to do with how these floating point numbers get stored. Now, I thought of a few ways to try to explain this in plain English, and this article does not explain in plain English. It's written by a computer scientist. And
is this a math class?
Is this a math class? Sort of, Chris. Yeah, get over it. Stop watching. Ken Stout, if you're watching, stop. Just leave. Get away. You don't want to watch this. This is viewer discretion advised. Ken Stout, don't watch this. All right. Adding a negative number. And that's an issue. When I saw this adding a negative number, I thought, well, now what do you mean? We were doing that because we're having deposits and withdrawals from those accounts. And so that is adding a negative number. And that has a piece of this problem. I'm not doing a good job of explaining this, but let me come over here to ChatGPT. I asked ChatGPT to show me how this is done. So let's see, I started up here and we went through a few different things. I started with, can you explain this paragraph to me? I asked ChatGPT to explain that paragraph that was written by a computer science person. Now, it's not all that hard to understand this when you go through it, but there's a lot of words that are used in this that are not part of the common daily vocabulary for most people. So when you I asked ChatGPT to show the process of converting 0.1 to binary. ChatGPT says, certainly, the process of converting a decimal such as 0.1 to binary involves representing its fractional part in binary. And here's a little bit about how it's done. How do you store this in ones and zeros? 0.1. So the answer is you multiply it by 2, and then you take the left side of the decimal point, and that becomes your first binary digit. And then you take that 0.2 and you multiply it by 2. And you get the result of 0.4. So your next binary digit is 0. Then you take the rest of that number, which is 0.4, and you multiply it by 2, which is 0.8. Now, since that has a 0 on the left side of the decimal point, your next binary digit is 0. Then you take that 0.8 and multiply it by 2. That gives you 1.6. So your next binary digit is 1. This is how, for floating point numbers, how they convert it to binary. Now, the problem is you get to a repeating digits where it just repeats over and over, like the 10 or the 3.333333. You get a similar thing in binary. So you wind up with these crazy long numbers, and they're only going to store a certain number of digits in binary. Now, if you go back and let's say an example of 3.333, wrong button. If you, I don't want to say that. Let's take the number 10 divided by 3. So you're going to have 3.3333, and then another one 3.3333, and then another one 3.333. All of those add up to 10, right? Not really. They add up to 9.999999, I suppose, right? Now, what happens if you take one of those 3.33s away, and then take the next 3.33 away? Then take the next 3.33 away. Are you left with 0? No. You've got this really tiny, tiny number that's way out there on the right edge of your number somewhere. So that's what was happening with these law office accounts, where they have. Come on, tell me what the name of it is. What's the impound account? Not impound. What is it? Retainer. A retainer account where they put money in, and then as charges come along, they take money out of that retainer account. And the way that these numbers are stored in binary, it means when they start taking money out, at some point you can wind up with a really, really tiny theoretical amount in the account when the balance of the account is actually zero. So we get those crazy numbers. So that did answer the problem. I don't know how well I did at describing that. I was thinking it would be fun to really put together a good teaching video on that for normal people. I didn't use any of the big words that they use in that article. So yeah, there's that. Now I'll move along to, let's see, I'm scrolling down further in this chat GPT because I gave it some extra challenges down here. Yeah, so here's a longer example where 0.15, so you multiply by 2, 0.15 times 2, that's 0.3. So the first binary digit is 0. You take that 0.3, multiply it by 2, because why 2? Why do we multiply by 2? Well, because in binary you only have zeros and ones. That's a total of 2 digits. And this has to do with how we store these floating point numbers in binary media. So then you get 0.6. So the next digit is 0. Then you take that 0.6 and multiply by 2. You get 1.2. And that's your next digit. Well, what happens down here, we get to, let's see, where is it? 3, 6. Yeah, we get to 6 down here. Once you get back to the 6, then it's just going to be repeating. It's going to keep repeating the same sequence of digits. Same as if you divide 10 by 3. You're going to get 3.333333. So this is not an issue of Excel. This is an issue of computers. So any computer storing floating point numbers, specifically floating point numbers, which is all spreadsheets are going to do that by default. You cannot change them to use binary coded data. You can only make them look that way by doing that menu option that I did a little while ago. And here it says in Excel 95.
Only hit the thumbs up button. Come on, it's not that hard.
Thank you, John. Enter the following, let's see, they were in Excel 95. No, here, Excel 97, however, introduced an optimization that attempts to correct for this problem. Should an addition or subtraction operation result in a value at or very close to 0, Excel 97 and later will compensate for any error introduced as a result of converting an operand to and from binary. The example above, when performed in Excel 97 and later, correctly displays zeros. Well, it has changed since then. Excel is displaying everything in the scientific notation unless you change that checkbox the way that I showed. But the data is still stored with that extra precision, the way Greg M said it. But is it really precise when it's a number that like 0.33333? It's not correct. It's more precise in the sense that it has more digits to the right of the decimal point. Nick says, why don't scientists trust atoms? Because they make up everything. They make everything up. Make up everything. No, I guess you said it the right way. Do I want to drop there? I think I want to drop there. I'll go look at chat before shutting down. I'm not going to have enough. I don't have the energy to read through them all out loud. Hello, John. Hello, Alice. One of my favorites, GNR, great rock group, rock and roll group. That's referring to the Guns N' Roses trailer at the beginning of the show. Rick Lake's like that also. Hello, Rick and Martin, Selden, Rand, Jeff. I'm not on the exercise ball. I'm in a chair. Daniel says, for the spreadsheet reference yesterday, was the original Excel or Google Sheets? It should be the same way either way. The original was Excel. Copied rows and columns in LibreOffice Calc and things look okay. No brackets shown around the 0. Yeah, it wasn't the brackets that I was concerned about. It was do the actual calculation. F2 to edit and then F9 to calc, and I don't know if LibreOffice does the same. Now, Martin Hogg sent his example from LibreOffice, and it did not fix the problem, but in his LibreOffice, apparently it did, because he sent me that thinking it fixed the problem, and it didn't. Okay, Martin, let me show you that, Martin, because you're probably, I don't think it showed up the same way to you in LibreOffice. Now, maybe LibreOffice by default does that store as displayed thing. Okay, I better go find out. What was that option called? On advanced, and scroll down a ways, and show it set precision as displayed. Now, if I take that check mark off, remember it said that the values would be lost permanently? Well, not true, because there's those crazy numbers. So it's not permanent. You can change that back. So I'm wondering if LibreOffice has this option set by default. Set precision as displayed. Now, I'll go pull up the sample that Martin sent. So, because I want to show Martin that the problem is still there, and perhaps it wasn't still there when he was looking at it in LibreOffice. Come up here. Okay, so here's what Martin sent me. He's showing the original sheet and then his modifications. And what he did is he changed, instead of having negative numbers in the draw column, he changed them to positive numbers. And instead of using that sum function, he actually subtracted the numbers in column I7. And he thought, fairly, but not true, that fixes. So now if I come down here into this cell, F2, F9, there's that crazy long number. It's still there. But I'm suspecting in LibreOffice that number was not there because LibreOffice was showing that other option. Set displayed as whatever. I'm not good today. Not in good shape. Greg M, hi. I already answered about the laptop. The laptop, I called my client yesterday about she wants to subscribe to Microsoft 365. So I said, well, I could bring the computer back to you and I could do that remotely and you can enter the credit card. And she said, no, I trust you with the credit card. I want to give that to you. And then we didn't get around to that yesterday. So she's going to give me her credit card information so that I can set up Office 365 and her email and two-factor, all that kind of stuff. My father was a computer programmer back in the 50s and 60s. I had a license plate for a while that had all binary numbers. Electronic data processing. EDP. Always tell me what EDP, because Nick knows me well enough to know that I'm going to ask, what does that mean? Alice, Greg M. The other thing fixes is the other thing though, and Martin, you sent another email about the sheet recalculating when we insert a row, and you had a misunderstanding about that. So don't spend any more time on that, Martin. What I want to do is I'll give, perhaps tomorrow, I'll give a demonstration. I'll get the blurring set up because I have to show the original spreadsheet with the client name. So I'll have to put in some blurring in order to do that, to show that symptom. And Martin, you definitely misunderstood that symptom. So don't pursue that any further. Let me actually show the symptom, because that is still a problem for this client. So the part about those weird numbers, that's answered, solved. Please don't spend any more time on that. But I will demonstrate that thing about inserting a blank row, the problem with that. Oh yeah, and Martin is giving Alice. Oh, I guess the question about the laptop was to Martin. Oh yeah, is the HP laptop. This one from John was about the laptop I was setting up. This one was to Martin about his laptop, and he did solve his problem. 0.333. Did I say that wrong somewhere along the line? Yeah. Oh, 1 divided by 3 is 0.333, right? Old programmer's joke. 2 plus 2 equals 5 for extreme values of 2. What? I don't think I ever knew that joke. Old programmer's joke. 2 plus 2 equals 5 for extreme values of 2. Okay. Pi is 22 divided by 7, 3.142, and it goes on. Yeah. But that doesn't do repeating numbers. Pi doesn't do repeating numbers. The numbers continue going on and on and on, but they don't repeat. Right? I believe I'm right about that. The unique thing about pi is those numbers keep going on and on, but they don't repeat. So, Daniel, some of my accounts will not let me evenly split the account evenly for 3 beneficiaries. It forces me to favor one child by 1%. Yeah, that's right. You try to split up the balance of an account to 3 of your kids. You would have to favor one child by 1%. Understand that. Lawn Dog, you're doing a good job of explaining the issue, also the reasoning for the process, determining what's actually happening.
8675309, do repeat. Ha ha ha.
8675309. Oh, John, you would have, if it weren't for what I have learned in doing this YouTube channel, I would not have caught that. I would have been saying, wait a minute, are you saying that is part of pi? And it does repeat? No. 867-5309 is Jenny's phone number. When I started this channel, I would not have known that. Okay, I'm kind of skimming through a little bit. I'm skimming through a lot of it. Richard Rogers said, hello in orange. I have not set up any redirects. Yeah, Nick explains it was Jenny. Lawn Dog missed the first 15 minutes. 15 minutes, really? You were making comments at the beginning, weren't you? Lawn Dog had 9/11. And at that point, he heard enough of my explanation to say I was doing good. Thank you. All right, I'm going to shut down now. Thank you for hanging out for a little bit. I'll see you tomorrow.